Good afternoon. Welcome to Spectrum Television News at noon. I am Uyai Imam. Come to you live from Uyo, the Akwa State capital. Let's take a look at the headlines. Federal government evacuates 1,230 Nigerians from Niger. International Institute of Journalism Uyo chapter visits staff media group, explores broadcast operations. In other news, Trump says United States will leave Iran in 2 to 3 weeks. We'll bring you the details of these stories and more in a moment. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. We'll begin the news at noon from the national scene where President Bola Tinubu has invited the governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, to Abuja for high-level talks following the recent attack in Angwan-Rukuba, Jos North. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, disclosed this at a press briefing held in Abuja. Idris conveyed condolences on behalf of the President and the federal government to the victims and their families. He stressed that swift and decisive measures are being taken to address the attack. Away from that, the federal government has successfully evacuated 1,230 stranded Nigerians from the Republic of Niger amid ongoing political instability and security concerns in the country, reaffirming its commitment to the protection and welfare of citizens abroad. In a press statement signed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson, and far today, the evacuation was carried out in 2 batches, with 708 returnees arriving on March 23, 2026, and another 522 arriving March 29, 2026. The ministry explained that the operation was facilitated in collaboration with relevant national and international partners, particularly the International Organization for Migration, IOM, whose logistical and technical support ensured a smooth process. The exercise, it said, reflects Nigeria's continued engagement with global partners in addressing migration challenges in manner. From the Red Chambers, the Senate has approved the request of President Bola Tinubu to go for external loans totaling $6 billion. The approval comes barely 4 hours after the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, read the letter from the President seeking the approval. The Red Chamber of the National Assembly approved the loans after the presentation and consideration of a report by the Senator Aliyu Wamako-led Committee on Local and Foreign Debts. Meanwhile, the Senate has approved a 68 trillion naira budget for the 2026 fiscal year, increasing the initial proposal of 59 trillion naira by 9 trillion naira. Senate President Godswill Akpabio announced the passage of the budget during plenary after lawmakers considered and adopted the report of the Senate Committee on Appropriations. The report was presented by the committee's chairman Adeola Olamilekon, who outlined the key allocations in the spending plan. According to him, 4.7 trillion naira was earmarked for statutory transfers, 15.8 trillion naira for debt servicing, 16.427 trillion naira for recurrent expenditure, and 32.2 trillion naira for capital expenditure. Following the review, the Senate approved the recommendations and passed the budget. In the meantime, the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has declared 3 senatorial seats vacant following the deaths of members of the 10th Senate. The vacancies affecting Enugu North Senatorial District, Nasarawa North Senatorial District, and Rivers Southeast Senatorial District. Akpabio made the announcement during plenary, noting that the development was necessitated by the demise of the affected lawmakers in line with constitutional provisions. He also declared vacant the seat representing Nasarawa North Senatorial District in Nasarawa State, as well as that of Rivers Southeast Senatorial District in Rivers State. Akpabio subsequently directed the Independent National Electoral Commission to conduct by-elections to fill the vacancies within the time frame stipulated by law. In another development, Saidu Alkali has resigned from his position as Minister of Transportation to pursue his governorship ambition in Gombe State ahead of the 2027 general elections. Alkali announced his resignation after a meeting with President Bola Tinubu at the presidential villa. A circular confirming the development was signed by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, and issued by the Permanent Secretary General Services Office, Ibrahim Kana. The circular stated that the directive followed the provisions of Section 88 Sub 1 of the Electoral Act of 2026, as well as the timetable released by the Independent National Electoral Commission, (INEC), for party primaries ahead of the 2027 election. According to the document, the resignation is in compliance with President Tinubu's directive requiring cabinet members seeking elective positions to step down, before participating in party primaries. Back on the home front, students of the International Institute of Journalism, UYO chapter, recently paid a courtesy visit to TAF Media Group, owners of Spectrum Television, Planet FM and Tangsio FM, as part of efforts to bridge classroom learning with practical media experience. The visit, which took place at the organization's premises, provided the students with a unique opportunity to gain first-hand insight into modern broadcasting operations and newsroom practices. Speaking during the visit, the representative of the IIJ UYO chapter expressed appreciation to the management of TAF Media Group for the opportunity, noting that such exposure is critical in shaping the next generation of media professionals.
Our business at IIJ is to train professionals, particularly those people in the media industry who do not have communication background, sociology, computer, whatever you train. But you are in the media practice. So we call them media practitioners. They are not professionals. It is when you have passed through this training that you now qualify to be called a professional, if actually you are practicing. So, sir, further, we should stop by to say to you, thank you very much for the opportunity of often granted us by the establishment for us to bring our students to see things that some of them never saw before. And we want to say that the God of heaven shall not only strengthen you, shall keep the business for you and for us in the name.
Meanwhile, the chairman of TAF Media Group, Tony Afia, thanked IIJ for the visit and encouraged them to remain committed to excellence, professionalism and ethical journalism. He also appreciated the state governor, Pastor Moino, for expediting the Ibiako-Oran Road project.
For always thinking about coming here to see, because we set up this establishment because to be able to do something that will help the people that are coming up in the world. Also want to thank the governor for expediting the road project. We've been here since 2013, and this road, we've always talked about this road. Everybody talks about this road. But finally, they started putting stone base in the village area. So we want to thank the government for expediting his bill.
The visit concluded with a guided tour of the facility. Now to Africa, where Cape Town has paraded around 500 military and police personnel ahead of a year-long deployment targeting gangs, illegal mining and organized crimes across the Western Cape. South African Member of Parliament Daryl James said the operation, set to begin in April, will cover 5 of South Africa's 9 provinces, focusing on areas struggling with rampant crime. Meanwhile, Deputy National Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Tabelo Moskili emphasized that a coordinated and intelligence-driven approach will be used by the military. The deployment comes as South Africa continues to battle high levels of violent crimes. On the foreign scene, Donald Trump says the United States military action in Iran could end in 2 to 3 weeks. Trump said the military will leave whether U.S. have a deal or not, once he's certain the regime cannot build a nuclear weapon for years. Meanwhile, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said Tehran has the necessary will to end the war provided its enemies guarantee it will not flare up again. Reports say oil prices fell back below $100 a barrel following the comments from the U.S. and Iranian presidents. Still on the foreign scene, Russia's defense ministry says a Russian military plane has crashed in Crimea, killing 29 people on board. The ministry said wreckage of an 26 aircraft AN was found after the plane lost contact with authorities during a routine flight, adding that technical issues appear to have caused the crash, with 6 crew members and 23 passengers on board. The AN-26 is a Soviet-era aircraft mainly used in a military capacity to transport heavy cargo and smaller numbers of passengers over a short to medium distance. Still to come in the news. FIFA CAF congratulate DR Congo on 2026 World Cup qualification. Do stay tuned for details of this and more in a moment. Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. And now to the rest of the news stories. On our business news, the Central Bank of Nigeria has directed banks to complete a mandatory cybersecurity self-assessment weeks as part of efforts to strengthen resilience across the financial system. In a letter published on its website, the Apex Bank said institutions are required to submit their completed CSAT within the timelines, 3 weeks for deposit money banks and 5 weeks for other regulated institutions. The CBN stated that the move was in line with its statutory mandate under the Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act 2020 and its broader commitment to improving cybersecurity standards in the sector. Still in business, Nigeria's subsidy-related fiscal burden in the power sector is expected to climb further as the federal government, through the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, has increased the price of natural gas for power generation companies to $2.18 per million British thermal units. The NMDPRA disclosed this in a public announcement signed by the authority's chief executive, Saidu Mohammed, in Abuja. Reports say the new pricing, effective from today, April 1st, 2026, signals a recalibration of Nigeria's gas market at a time when the power sector is already struggling with supply shortages, mounting debts and liquidity challenges. This comes as the federal government paid 71.49 billion naira out of 1.92 trillion naira electricity subsidy owed to power generation companies in 2025, representing just 3.7% of the total sum. On our health news, the Chief of United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF Bauchi Field Office, Dr. Nouzat Rafiq, has reaffirmed the commitment of partners and the Gombe State government to eradicate polio as the state commenced its first immunization campaign for 2026. Dr. Rafiq made this known during an interactive session with journalists shortly after a review meeting on the ongoing polio immunization exercise in Gombe. She commended the state government for its commitment to the exercise, noting that the campaign, which began after a flag of activities at the state and local government levels, is already recording steady progress. Dr. Rafiq noted that key components such as staff training, community engagement, and social mobilization had been effectively implemented. Now to sports, where World Football Governing Body FIFA and Confederation of African Football CAF have sent congratulatory messages to the Democratic Republic of Congo for qualifying for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. DR Congo are the latest team to book their spot at this year's competition after their 1-0 win against Jamaica, following extra time in their Intercontinental Playoff final in Mexico in the early hours of today. Former Manchester United defender Axel Tuanzebe scored the only goal in the first half of extra time to settle the tie after a tense affair in normal time. The Congolese will now head to their second World Cup after featuring at the 1974 edition in the former West Germany. Still in sports, Luka Doncic has broken NBA great Kobe Bryant's 20-year record for the most points scored by a Los Angeles Lakers player in a calendar month as they overcame the Cleveland Cavaliers 127-113. Doncic, who returned after a one-game suspension for picking up his 16th technical foul, scored 42 points to take his tally for March to 579, beating Bryant's record of 574, which had stood since 2006. Recall that Doncic last month became the first player since Bryant to score 60 points in a game for the LA Lakers when they beat the Miami Heat. On our entertainment news, rapper Megan Thee Stallion has been taken to the hospital midway through her performance of Moulin Rouge, the musical, in New York. Her representative confirms that she was transported to a local hospital where her symptoms are currently being evaluated. The musician, 31, performed as Zitla, the show's eccentric master of ceremonies, marking her highly anticipated Broadway debut. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do what follows on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. This has been Spectrum Television News at noon. I am Uyai Emem. Thanks for watching. Good afternoon.